welcome to the very first series of the day. It's Aussie versus Tope, and man, I'm starting to think we might see a mirror, and we do not. It's Tope on the Rogue and Aussie on the Hunter. Aussie on the draw here, gonna get his coin. Tope on the play. Do you think Tope has enough here to go into the beatdown early? I think Spy Mistress is a great start.
Yeah, especially because he has Greyheart Sage. I would say those two are a keep together, especially since it's so difficult for Hunter to actually interact with the stealth minions. They don't have AoE, and so it would rely specifically on Zethris to try and clear Spy Mistress. So Tope can actually keep this combo to make sure he has card draw going into the mid game, but he can also think about trying to look for removal, which is very important against Hunter. Backstab is a big one. And I find that the way Rogue gets ahead in this matchup is to take advantage of their lackeys, because for Hunters, it's so difficult to deal with a lot of small minions. They need Desert Spear almost specifically. So Tope, I think he's gonna settle for the good combo, but he will be looking to draw into more annoying minions for the Hunter later on.
Yeah, you're right. And again, because of what you mentioned, the lackeys, I do believe that Unleash the Hound here is going to have to work double time for Aussie. Tope, on the other hand, I like how he drew into the Pharaoh Cat, but instead he is going to drop the Spy Mistress first. So does this say, does this telegraph to Aussie that, hey, I'm planning to go fast here? And oh, wow. All right, so he can afford to do that. He can afford to go fast.
I like the greetings on both ends. For Tope, yeah, I don't think Spy Mistress on one necessarily telegraphs anything. It's the best play both offensively and for Rogue against Hunter, because say if the Hunter wants to play Fairy Dragon or Blazing Battle Mage, it's dead on board from a trade. But for Tope, I think he has some incentive before he drew the second one to keep it stealth, to make sure he has a Greyheart Sage activation. But now that he has the second Spy Mistress, I wouldn't mind him just sending this attack to the face.
Playing it safe though, playing it safe. He would rather hold it back. And that gives Aussie here an interesting set of decisions.
Yeah. He could have gone for the Bone Chewer Brawler to try and defend, but it would have died to a trade from Spy Mistress, and maybe Aussie is hoping to get no target available for Seal Fate from Tope's side. I'm a bit surprised though that the Corrosive Breath was used on a very low priority minion. Anyway, Tope gets his draw going, and I think this looks like the time to start unleashing these attacks to the face. Even if they are unstealth, it's not so easy for Hunter to deal with it. They need Desert Spear or Zephyr specifically for a clean answer.
I wonder.
Yep. Even Desert Spear kind of hurts. Like, you have to hit it with your face at least once. The other one would be the Locust, but nonetheless, this is 6 damage on board already. At least it's safe to say here that if Tope lets go, Aussie could switch into the beatdown at any time soon, because of how much the quality of his cards in his hand show that much. And again, the Corruptor could turn the 1-drop into 4/4 from there.
Yeah.
And I don't see the questing adventure growing big like soon, right? Because it's his hand is full of like 2 and 3 drops. He's lacking the, no pun intended, the lackey assault to essentially make it grow fast. I've seen that yesterday, wherein in a single turn, questing adventure would go up to be a 6/6, a 7/7 in the same turn.
Well,
and
he can make it a 4/4 right now, and that is quite powerful. And this could be the big reason why Tope did not actually attack with his minions last turn. He wanted to make sure that Aussie's face was still undamaged to have a Seal Fate target. And now, he can present a very, very threatening board. I still want to attack with these stealth minions. Tope has been very, very patient, but it's getting to the point where if Aussie's turn is just Desert Spear to deal with these, then he will not deal with the questing adventure. So Tope can act from 2 different sides here and push the threat to make sure that Aussie can't deal with everything at once.
Yeah, you're right. I guess the way Tope has been playing is both conservative, and he's keeping as many options open to him as possible. And he continues to keep the mistresses in stealth. And Aussie's hand just gets a little bit more clunky. A lot of expensive cards here. Even the Bone Chewer won't do much. It's just single hit on everything. Pointing out the
Yeah.
Corruptor for
How about a new
the
Wow.
Adventurer. Straight
Major
up, it's a
respect.
single trade. Yeah.
Major respect from Ozzy there. I can understand why he was very playing scared there, because he didn't have any other immediate answers for the questing. If after that turn, he could look at saving the coin for his 6 mana turn to go for the Verano's coin Og Merchant combo, but by then he maybe would have taken too much damage, so he is just gonna go with that line. Personally, I was looking at the evasive Feywing because it looked like he was holding on to the Og Merchant for so long so that he could pair it with the Faceless Corruptor, but I cannot blame him for respecting the Adventurer there. And now, Tope has had his biggest threat answered, and now it's finally time to unstealth these Spy Mistresses, because honestly, it's looking like Tope's hand is not built for value. He does not have Dogwaggle or Galakron or any invoke cards, so to me, this looks like he should have been attacking for a very long time now.
Yeah. Well, that's something to say in hindsight, because we would not have known that 5 turns later my hand would be a little clunky and, you know, so how do we say, reactive. But nonetheless, he takes out 1. So he's at least halfway through the door. He makes the decision and says, you know what, maybe now one of them. Maybe one of them.
So the play that leaves 1 stealth to me is indicating that he's very scared of a Desert Spear punish, because that's the only one that really punishes unstealthing both of them. So he's saying if you want to get some value with your Desert Spear, you cannot take 2 good trades, only 1. But Ozzy here, his hand is actually better equipped to deal with only 1 Spy Mistress, because he can use the Guardian of Merchant to shoot it down and develop his evasive Feywing behind it. There's also an option to go for Zixar instead, but I like going for max mana expenditure here.
Yeah. Zixar, as nice as it is, affecting the board immediately. There you go. He leaves out 1. So I guess he's trying to save as much face as possible, given that we are approaching the mid game, and we find another questing adventure in Tope's hand with very little ways to activate it. It could go to a what?
It is
2, 3, 4.
quite
4
powerful
at best.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's fine to just play it and then just spend all his mana, right? He can just flick next turn. What I'm
Go for
interested
it.
in is a cute play with the Shotbot, where he can actually trade the first half into the Guardian of Merchant, and then he can rush Goblin the second half to trade with the Zixor, which means he preserves his Spy Mistress that way. And I wouldn't mind sending the Eviscerate face also. But if he wants to play more conservatively with his minions, I can also see Eviscerate Zixor and just dagger the 2-1 and hold on to the Goblin Lackey. I think this is perfectly reasonable as well. But I really want to see him expend all of the damage to the face now, because his hand is not value-oriented, it is tempo-oriented.
Yeah, and tempo goes away as soon as your opponent starts to catch up. But even then, Ozzy's playing out. Okay, he can find the prime immediately. This is still very dangerous for Tope. He held back there. Jia, you think that's gonna bite him in the behind a little later? Because he's so conservative. He's keeping it.
Yes.
He's keeping it so close to the chest that at some point you'd almost say he's defensive.
Yes. It would very well come back to bite him if he had not drawn any value, but that is a huge draw here. It allows Tope to keep the card draw going. He can rush this into the evasive worm and just manage all of the attack to go face. I think that Tope, even though he could have made the clock much quicker for Ozzy here, is still in a great position. Problem is, the Siamat on Ozzy's side can actually start dealing with the questing adventure next turn.
Yeah, and then the value brought in by the Sage seems to be temporary at that point, because then he'd be stuck with the flick and the giant 10-10. I mean, where did that even come from? Was that? Yeah, that's not in his list, I believe. It's not.
Yeah,
It was just
from the
generated
Pharaoh
by
Cat.
the Pharaoh Cat. So I'm like, he'd be stuck with that. Almost a dead weight at this point.
But on the bright side, after Siamat, Ozzy will have very, very low HP left, assuming Tope wants to attack with his Spy Mistress. Given that he used both Greyheart Sage, I now see zero reason to leave this stealth. There's just
Yeah, I was
not
about
very
to
good
wonder.
benefit.
I was
Yeah.
about to ask. Maybe he's just afraid of again the Locust Punish, right? But again, even that is questionable. The Desert Spear, the range in Ozzy's hand is so small. I think if there was a Desert Spear, it would have come out earlier too.
True. And then if you play Desert Spear, there's very little mana to deal with the questing after that. But for Tope, it's probably not gonna matter because he's still in a very good position. He can go for Shield of Galakron here and the Seal Fate to deal with Tiamat. Seal Fate first is the good order. And normally I would say from this point, Ozzy has had enough time to defend himself that the Zixor Prime can shift the whole game in his favor, but because Tope has the flick for an answer, the game will actually continue a bit longer, I think.
Yep. I mean, Tope far from getting lethal, and Ozzy, good play next turn for the Zixor, but again, it's a back and forth. There's a rally going on. Shield following through with the play. This Spy Mistress is lasting so much longer than any of us have expected. Now, considering if he's gonna throw it into the Siamat, I think this is what he's been doing. He's been waiting for just for a rainy day. This is the rainy day, Jia.
Yes, he was hoping for a good trade since the very beginning, which makes a lot of sense, but there's also opportunity to be aggressive when he's actually in the lead there. And now Ozzy has been waiting for the chance to swing the board. From his perspective, this could be the turn that gives him a chance at winning the game, but he will get the bad news that Flick Sky Shiv is there to reset the board state in the best favor.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about range earlier. The Desert Spear. Tope has a hand of what right now? 6? The range is so small, but nonetheless, it's gonna happen. Flick, taking care of all of the primes, leaving him with 3 mana, so he's able to build the board plus button. And yeah, that Murloc's not gonna do much, but nonetheless, it's a 2-3. Solid body, safe.
And it's very crucial that Tope has the King Togwaggle Lucky combo next turn. So even if the 1-1 from Ozzy gets cleared, and wow, that's a huge draw also to combo with Veranos for the full clear.
Ooh.
That's another tempo swing for Ozzy, but Tope will have the wand immediately available to be played next turn. So this is back and forth.
Yep, a single 7-6 on the side of Ozzy. Is that gonna be enough to get between him and 0 life, now sitting at 8? No burst on the side of Tope, but nonetheless, there is going to be a burst of value. Again, easy to pick up via wand. Would you say it's fair for him to just go wand immediately? Yeah, like
absolutely.
He goes in, this is 3 mana. Go for it, right?
And there are a lot of high impact cards he can get here. Shield is a very good one.
Value.
Edwin is huge. At this point, he's seen Unleash the Hounds. There's no reason to hold back on going wide with your board except for Zephyrus. But even if Zephyrus comes down for Twisting Nether, I think Tope is fine because he can follow up with Colossus of the Moon. So I want to see him drop all of the resources here.
The Colossus is gonna see finally play ridiculous with a tank, but nonetheless, you're right. He can go wide. He can even go tall. This Edwin is gonna be by no means a chump. It's gotta be in the double digits at some point, especially when doing the math. It's gotta be double digits if he drops the backstab. But again, that might be a little too greedy.
I think it's already going to be a 12-12 if he just drops it here.
Right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. He counts himself. Oh no, it's each other. There you go. There you go. My math is off, but again, already double digits. Does not need the backstab. Big threat from Ozzy. Should he track for Zephyrus?
I think that's his only out now. The Grand Slam does not have a capability of dealing with Edwin. Rotnest Drake gives him a small chance, and he can reduce the board size if he trades first, and then he has 1 and 4 to clear Edwin. He can also drop
25%.
Second best target.
Another soul
but it is probably not going to be good enough. Tope is lacking just a little bit of damage to let this Edwin go face, and he can find it, I think, pretty easily.
He's got a praise.
Yeah. Gonna start
He
with the
has,
praise.
Yep. Well, this is good too. The Ethereal
It's
Lackey
actually
is good
lethal
too.
already. Yeah, with just the dagger, I think, and the praise, he's fine. But this way works as well as long as he can get through the Bone Wraith, and that is gonna be GG in favor of Tope for game 1.
First game going over to Tope again. Galakron Rogue. Well, mostly the stealth variety. Doing so well over the weekend. We did yesterday see Enli bring out Galakron Rogue that has some the secrets in it, which was a little too much. Like there was too much in the same 30 card list. But nonetheless, congratulations, Tope. Up already by 1. Taken out Rogue from his formula. Now he is left with a couple more decks. Now it's going to be a choice between his Hunter and his Warlock. Gia, in this situation, would you keep your Hunter as Ozzy?
Well, given that the 2 remaining decks are either a favorable for him or a mirror, I think it's fine to stay on the Hunter here. But ultimately, because this is Conquest, the Q order does not matter so much. At some point, he needs to win with all of his decks. For this specific match, there's always going to be a little bit of mind games for Tope. He can maybe try to sneak in his Warlock if he expects Ozzy to change decks. For example, I think Warlock has a better chance against Rogue than it does against Hunter, but we will see.
Yep, and again, it comes to this point wherein both players are veterans, and as you mentioned, the order doesn't matter as much, except when it comes down to mind games. And I'm looking forward to something tricksy happening, and it's not gonna be just so. It's going to be a Highlander Hunter mirror, Tope on the play, Ozzy on the draw. They're still thinking about their mulls here. Let's see what kind of major differences these decks have. Ozzy.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
can already see from Tope's list that he's running the Evasive Worm, which is not a common inclusion, but I think has become more recently a common tech with the dragon heavier version of this deck. It really takes advantage of the Diving Griffon, which gives him more chances to draw into the Evasive Worm. And he also
Yep.
has Frisk Kindle Roost, which is also a more recent version of this Highlander Hunter deck. Whereas from Ozzy, we can see the older version, which is still very strong in its own right.
Yeah. Again, yesterday I remember we were waiting on the Frizz to come down, and again, aggressive body 5/4, and it's such value if you're able to drop it on turn 4. All the more, even more if you drop it sooner. And yeah, here we go, game number 2. Dragonbane in Tope's hand, Bone sure as well. Transfer student. This is the Uldum board, I believe.
Yes, one of 2 Uldum boards. I think this is the one that gives it Reborn, but we will see later on. I'm very happy that Transfer Student is allowed for this tournament because it was not actually legal to be submitted for Masters Tour APAC. It's a very fun card though, and we'll see if it's going to serve Ozzy well here. If it is just the Reborn though, it's not going to stack up so well against his mature brother, so I'm not surprised at all to see Ozzy get the Stormhammer on Lime. That was a keep in his mulligan because this is one of the most valuable weapons in any matchup.
Gia, I figured it out. This is the Uldum City, or the City of Uldum. Regardless, it's not the Reborn. Actually, it's something more interesting.
Okay.
It's adding a Plague spell to your hand.
Okay, that is very interesting because there are a lot of game-changing ones there. The Plague of Madness, which we saw close out the game last time, or there's also Plague of Death. For Tope, Dragon Choice is very interesting. Evasive Wing is on curve for him, but he already has the Friskindle Roost as an on-curve play next turn, so I like that he goes for the 6 cost Veranas here instead.
We're off to the races already. They're both building towards value, and Ozzy just looping out the Griffin, pulling out his Faceless Corruptor. Now, yeah, this is a free turn. Friskindle Roost setting up for the rest of the game here for Tope. that's a lot of saved mana. Just 2 on every single dragon.
Frizz on curve is absolutely devastating, and he knows that Ozzy probably did not have a good dragon to play that turn, because if he did, he would have played it and just used his Stormhammer instead of using the Diving Griffin to deal with it. So now Ozzy's best answer to a 4 health minion is also out of the way, and now Ozzy will probably end up using his Scale Rider on this, but it's gonna use the last charge of his Stormhammer.
Yep. And again, also his face. That's what makes, to me, Kindle Ruse so good, is the 5 that he deals if you deal with it with your face. And that puts Tope on the beatdown immediately. Turn 5 for him would be the Whelp. Safe. Just build value, have a 5/5.
Yeah.
Ozzy,
he
it's your
has a
turn.
very aggressive mid-game oriented hand, and the Rotnest Drake is the big one here. It's so powerful for swinging tempo, but you need to be careful with it in the mirror, because if you're the first one to play Rotnest Drake and your opponent answers with their Rotnest Drake, Quincy is a possibility for Ozzy. Suddenly that can put you very behind on the tempo. So I also expect to see maybe the Whelp from Tope on the following turn, but we'll see first if Ozzy can manage to take advantage of the tempo he bought himself with that 5 health he lost.
Ooh. Bran now. Open for the turn 7.
Wow.
Again, if Tope really wants to swing for the fences, he could. But based on how he played the first matchup and watching him from yesterday, I can tell that he's a little more conservative. Would love to play for value and keep his options open. So, yeah. Now we'll see if he makes this decision. Again, very interesting lines of play here. But also with the breath.
Both of the dragons actually do get punished by the Rotnest Drake, so Tope is actually going to go for the safer option here. Ozzy responds to this one, just kind of the back and forth tennis, but at least for Tope, he has a 50-50 shot of being able to answer his Rotnest right now with the Dragon Bane, but because he drew Diving Griffin, he has a 100% way to answer this and gives him a potentially clear board for Bran on the next turn. But you can also make the argument, well, if your Dragon Bane misses here, that puts Ozzy down to 18 HP, and maybe he doesn't have to even care about the Rotnest Drake and start going face with the Bran.
Also, right? Also, so I guess it comes down to how Dragon Bane decides for Tope, but doesn't that feel miserable that it's your card that decides for you? Because I don't think putting Ozzy down to 18 would immediately spell, like, it's weird to have the game dictate to you that this is the way you're gonna play now, but that's the play he's gonna go for. Here we go, let's see.
It's a fair point you make, because if it misses, it can be very, very bad for him, because then Ozzy can take a value trade and develop further, so to the point where Bran might not even help that much, but Tope decides the 50-50 is worth it rather than having a clear board entirely, and then he is going to get rewarded for that, and is now gonna be the tennis on the other side again.
Yep, Dragon Bane fight. Oh!
Unlucky for Ozzy.
Alright, so Ozzy made the same gamble. He's like, yo, if Tope can do it, I can too. Check this out. But again, only one may stand. Now Tope here can do the same thing, Jia, right? He can just press the button, see what happens, and the Dragon Bane might just ballista into the other one.
He can, but is it that straightforward? Because it's the 7 mana turn. Getting down the Bran also looks very tempting here. If you're gonna go for pushing the button though, it's, I think, would most likely just be paired with the big ol' Whelp. Kind of slow, so I like that he goes for the Bran instead here. And I don't see any reason to trade. Yep.
He'll put him down to 10. This is the clock on Ozzy. And this now opens another interesting line of plays for Ozzy. Going for the Transfer Student plus Faceless Corruptor.
Ooh, Plague of Death. That's a full clear here. If he goes for just Fairy Dragon.
Much better.
he can start with hero power first. So if the hero power lands on either of the two leftmost minions, then he can go Plague of Death first and then end the board with his Fairy Dragon instead. I think that's the best way to go about this. And if the Dragon Bane misses, unfortunate, but he can still end up clearing the board.
Yeah. Either way, Ozzy is still in this, and Tope just put the clock so much faster, but has to catch up, essentially. His hand, though, not bad.
Quickly.
Yeah, the problem is even if Ozzy gets the Plague of Flames clear, it is not going to end up in his favor for tempo because at the end of this turn, Tope will still have the initiative. And Ozzy actually goes for a different play here, which is to make sure he gets the card draw. Not gonna bother taking the 50-50 with his hero power. And I think that makes a lot of sense also.
Yeah. Now
Well,
Tope,
for Tope, you can smell blood.
he does. I mean, if your opponent's at 10, and the board is free, essentially you really want to make the most of it. This is a free turn, as free as a turn as it gets.
Yes. Zephyrs is very close to giving him lethal here, just one hero power away from a fireball lethal. But the problem is he can't set it up for himself because normally you can just corrosive breath your own minion and go hero power. But then his only cheap enough minion to do that is Fairy Dragon, which cannot be targeted by his corrosive breath. So Tope has to delay a little bit longer, but I think it's not a problem for him because Ozzy needs healing and does not have it.
Nope. I mean, it's this right here, Jia. He's got to deal with this now, and I don't think he has any answers.
Nope.
It's literally a fireball and button for Tope. I mean, he can even corrosive breath his own big old whelp if he wanted to.
Yes. For the style points.
Yep, just flexing on Ozzy. And Ozzy here, you see the look on his face, the frustration. He knows what he needs, and he knows he doesn't have it immediately.
Yeah, it had to be a
or
Zephyr top
reliably.
deck on this turn, and it was not there. Even if he goes big ol' whelp and gets his Zephyrs off the top, there's not enough mana to deal with the 5-5, the 3-2, and also heal him up. So from Ozzy's perspective, his best play is to try and clear as much damage as possible. So that would involve probably the Zixor and the Guardian of Merchant or the Faceless Corruptor or the Kill Command, sure, as long as he's able to deal with the board. And then he's just hoping that there's not lethal on the other side, but unfortunately for him, Tope has it locked down.
Yep, the read was a smart and calculated gamble again. In a hand of 5 or 6, what are the chances? But he does have it. Zephyrs now gonna give Tope lethal for game number 3.
And now Ozzy is really on the back foot because Tope only has to win now with his his Warlock, the Quest Warlock.
Yeah.
But to be fair, this is a deck that can be swept. I would say it's a very, very challenging deck to play. If you don't have a lot of experience on it, it is very easy to mess up. So maybe Ozzy can try and prey on any cracks in Tope's armor going into this next match.
And again, I've seen this maybe yesterday, and just a few days prior, wherein if you don't have the plot twist, or even if your plot twists just flub out, you're essentially dead in the water, and your Supreme Archaeology is not gonna do anything. Even if you do get your upgraded power, it's gonna be tough, and you're gonna have to rely on your top decks and your Kelidans. Every single wipe is going to matter for the Warlock here. So Ozzy on the play. Again, it's smart for him, Gia, correct me if I'm wrong, to really just put the pressure on Tope, right? He just wants to put as much damage, present it as quick as possible to make Tope just dig for answers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Ozzy, as the aggressor in this matchup, also wants to be very careful playing around Tope's most convenient removals, being Dark Skies in particular, and also Crazed Netherwing. So as the hunter, yes, you want to put a lot of damage on board, but you have to also consider, is this too easy for Tope to deal with just one card? And we'll see that later on. But for now, Tope, that quest online, he's on the coin, which I think is what Warlock likes to be. So they have more cards in hand at the beginning of the game, and he already has that Dark Skies, which is very important.
Yeah, and he also has Rain of Fire, and this is the way I've seen Warlocks play for the most part. They want to have, you know, at least one or two wipes on deck, just ready to go anytime, and he gets more. Plus the Artificer, so he just has answer upon answer here, Gia. I feel like Tope here doesn't even want a plot twist right now. I think he'd rather hold on to these until he uses them, then goes for the twist.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. The problem is, though, that there will not be immediate ways to deal with the board because Ozzy has played a dormant minion. So, at the very least, the threats are a bit parceled out. But Tope can just deal with the Diving Griffin with Rain of Fire here. It's kind of saying I'm going to spend this card to save 3 health, essentially, because the rain will also damage him. I can also see a reason for holding on to it because it's just 1 additional health and the Dark Skies will probably clean up the whole board either way. But I also just think that preserving your health is the most important thing in this matchup. So I like that Tope uses a rain here.
Yeah, but even then, the clock is ticking. Ozzy putting down Tope at 20 with some help being put in by Tope himself, right? So Tope essentially dealt himself already 4 damage. He does have the Nether Breath on deck here. He can heal up, so that is at least 4. And I'm hoping that today Aranasi is kind to us. Yesterday there was an interesting, how do we say, interaction between Aranasi and her spec. So hopefully, if Tope does join Aranasi, that just totally, how do we say, interrupts the broadcast. But nonetheless, that's neither here nor there just yet because no plot twist is available, or the button has yet to see Aranasi.
Quickly.
Turn for Ozzy is not so straightforward because his on-curve play is something he would rather save for when he can hero power alongside it. You don't just drop the Dragon Bane here because Tope, it's very easy for him to go up to 9 cards next turn, which is perfect for Dark Skies to clear. So I fully expect Ozzy to either play Stormhammer or Zigzor here, but instead he's just going to weave in his hero power and be completely conservative. I can also see the reasoning for this. For Tope, it's crucial that he has not just Nether Breath, but 2 Moarg to go along with that. So later on, that can be 16 heal for him in 1 shot if he wants to save them all together.
Yep, and 16 in a single go plus a body. Like, you got 2 bodies that can trade in or force Ozzy to trade into them. Again, Tope is doing very well, at least for the early game here. But he's far from making the archaeology work. Like, he's drawn slow.
I guess the quest completion is a lower priority now. He's gonna pull the trigger on one of the Moarg Artificers. I think that's perfectly fine because if he holds onto the whole combo, he doesn't actually have a good clear for the 5/4, and so he ends up taking 5 damage anyway for the greed of holding onto 16 heal, and it kind of defeats the purpose. For Ozzy though, he can also use the effect of the Moarg because it says all spells that target minions, so the Corrosive Breath can actually one-shot the Moarg here. Problem for Ozzy is though that the refill is just gonna be Zigzor, which is nothing to scoff at. I think it's fine because as long as he can keep the board relatively clear for Dragon Bane next turn, he should still be in a fine spot.
Yep, and the Stormhammer is it feels a little clunky because that's another play I'm seeing, the breath plus the Stormhammer to the face, and again, every bit of damage that you're presenting could go a long way, especially if you can drop the Feywing later on. There you go, he's thinking about it, and he might as well.
Yep. So he's gonna go for the Stormhammer instead of Zigzor here to keep the aggression going. To me, the swing here is not the most straightforward play because you probably want to go for a Dragon Bane next turn, which is not a dragon in itself, but he takes the swing because there is an Acidic Swamp Ooze in Tope's deck, so in case that gets played, he doesn't want to leave both charges unused.
Yep. And again, it's the one that matters. The one plus a dragon.
Whoa,
That's essentially
plot twist.
eternal. Woo!
That's
Alright,
a
so
huge top
plot,
deck for Tope.
yeah. Plot twisting away the coin. It's fine. He could run into an Aranasi here. Heal him up. There you go. There's one confirmed.
And the ooze is there as well.
There's the ooze. Perfect ooze. A crazed
But
Ethering
is
as
he
well.
getting the coin?
Nah. He also missed out on a lot of his wipes. So he's gonna have to. Well, there is the Dark Skies, but from there he's gonna have to find it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah. And he has a little bit of breathing room because for Hunter, the really scary turn is 7 mana because Bran and Siamon are both available. So if Tope doesn't see any huge development from Ozzy, he could maybe take the turn to go for Abyssal Summoner instead. But there is going to be the evasive A-Wing play here. And we are on the same game board, so that transfer student is going to give Plague card again.
Yeah. Pretty good. Ozzy here. The range is very small though. He's at 5 cards, and the brand's still a very real threat for Tope. But I think I prefer this hand over the earlier one because his earlier hand had like what, half of it were wipes, and there were many choices.
Board clears are pretty important in this matchup. Tope is actually going to use Dark Skies for very minimal value here, but he's saying as long as I can get rid of the weapon and also maintain the Caladan in hand in case he sees the King Crush come down this turn, then he feels relatively safe. I was definitely looking at Abyssal Summoner there instead, but I can see his reasoning for this. Plague of Flames again is the option for Ozzy, which could come in handy later if he sees this big taunt come down on board.
Oh, that Plague. Again, he also has a wipe of his own just in case Tope starts to get a stranglehold of the game. Now what? 7 mana. There you go. He finds the coin. Yeah, these 4 power corruptors are as big as a threat as any Tope. He's looking for another wipe.
I'm actually surprised that he didn't go for Abyssal Summoner there. It was just going to be an 8/8 taunt, which dies on board, or 7/7, sorry, which dies on board to the 2 Faceless Corruptors. But I feel like the defensive play might have bought him the time to get some extra draws here. But instead, he prioritizes the quest completion because he got a card draw off the top, and that's pretty big now that he can start getting cards for free. That is a great one. I don't care if it doesn't get the battle cry, it's just an 8/8 on board right now, and I think that's very good.
Yeah, it's necessary. But again, it walks into the Plague.
Life and hope of your fight.
I guess it
I think for
forces
Tope,
Ozzy to.
if Ozzy sacrifices his board for this, then Tope already has his hero power online. I think that it's totally fine if your Alexstrasza gets board cleared here.
You can just go from there. I get it now. I see where you're going. And I kind of see where Ozzy wants to go, but to some extent there seems to be a mental disconnect wherein you've been punching this Warlock in the face for what seems like 6 or 7 turns now, and they're still sitting at 21 with a full grip.
But now, But now that he's drawn the Rottnest Drake, he doesn't actually have to use Plague of Flames to deal with these, which is great for him. He can maintain his pressure, put some face damage in, and also develop that 6/5. I think it looks great here. It's just a question of how he wants to trade into the 2/3. Is it going to be the 4/1 or his 4/4? If he trades his 4/1, then it's a little bit safer against.
He wants to hold on. He wants to hold on to the Rottnest Drake. He's gonna slow roll it. And put the
he's
6.
taking that opportunity to get the Dragonbane damage to the face. I think that's also a very valid play. He has the kill command. He's just hoping that there isn't further healing for Tope. And unfortunately, though, the Zephrys for Tope is active. So if Tope can just navigate around this Dragonbane, he can manipulate Zephrys to give him healing here.
Yeah, you're right, because both Aranasai? No, Aranasi brood mothers. There you go. The brood mothers are both in their hand, in Tope's hand, so that won't be it. That's not where the healing could come from. So yeah, definitely. Zephyrus, a key here, the Tope's survival. And of course, destroying the Aranasi. Oh, sorry, the Dragon's Bane.
So he could have gone for a slightly different order to guarantee that Zephyrus would give healing, but it's gonna give healing here anyway, and that's good recognition from Tope because the Soulfire also is enough mana that he can deal with the Dragon Bane and he gets that healing touch. A big win for Tope there, but Ozzy has seen his Zephyrus now, and so he knows the healing is very limited from this point. It's just the second Nether Breath, and so I think Ozzy will just prioritize pressing that hero power button as much as he can.
That's an upgrade. Probably.
Yep, and he also has Zigzor kill command, so that's another confirmed 5 damage in the face. He doesn't have to shy about it.
The next wave of threats is put down for Ozzy. Tope is looking for his Nether Breath, but I think the turn is going to start with a tap.
Yep. It's a free tap. Oof.
Pretty good one. Soulfire and Rain of Fire.
Oh, he's still looking for it.
Is
He's still looking for it, Gia. He's still looking for it.
Even if he doesn't get it, the Keladan can deal with a single target. That's not too bad at all. I am looking at a different option though, where he actually plays his Abyssal Summoner just to get a threat on board. Then he can still go for Soulfire Coin, Rain of Fire to deal with this. It's expensive, but his hand is not giving him the goods, you know. I don't think there's anything here that he'd be too sad about discarding. And if he puts a threat on board and clears Ozzy's threat, it's kind of like ensuring you a clear for the next threat as well.
But I think these clears are only going so far because it's at the point wherein, again, we mentioned Tope has only the Nether Breath as his heal, and Ozzy has multiple ways to damage him at this point. I mean, there's a kill command, there's a boar possibly coming out of the
yeah, if that's
banyan.
Hoffer, it's just one off lethal.
No, it's not
but
Hoffer, it's Misha. We're okay. Well,
very
Tope is
slow,
okay.
And it's a good point you bring up because the clearing and healing is not enough for Tope. I really wanted to see him put some pressure instead and try to reverse the clock on Ozzy, but he held on to the Abyssal Summoners, and surely now he's going to play one. Of course, the turn starts with a tap, as long as there's space in the hand, because it can give you even more powerful options like the Alexstrasza or Malagos. Oh my goodness.
Oh, actually, he lost out on the Alexstrasza already. He played his Alexstrasza, so and he's played his
Not
his
the Dragon
Zephyrus.
Queen, the regular Alexstrasza.
Oh, right. Regular Alexstrasza,
Yeah.
put him back to 15, or put Ozzy at 15. Either way, you're right. That's also a very doable. That's also a great reality for Tope. But you're right. He still has actual Alexstrasza.
And Tope can go for a trade and the Rain of Fire, and then he can play Malagos and Abyssal Summoner. As long as he gets aggressive here, I will like. He can also hold on to Rain of Fire because he has Malagos. As long as he plays the Big Ton, I think he's in a very good spot to try and go for reverse lethal here.
But yeah, he's thinking about it. He's about to run out of options.
Just counting up whether he can have lethal next turn without having to play Malagos, just to prevent the possibility of Ozzy clearing it. And looks like he's counted up that this is still fine for him here. Ooh.
Yeah.
Well,
for
Ozzy
Ozzy
can
here,
take that Scavenger. He can immediately kill off his Zigzor to draw into the Prime, but he will take a lot of damage in the process.
And again, at this point, it feels like if Ozzy lets off, if Ozzy slows down, that's chalk one up for Tope, right? He's that much closer. And again, Soulfire could go face too, so that's a very real possibility.
Yeah, Tope just has 15 burst damage in hand, plus the 3 from the Crazy Netherwing. So it could very well just be lethal right now if Ozzy does not deal with that 9-9.
Yep. Even this one decision here for Ozzy is going to matter. And he goes for the ingenuity. And I think this is the play for him. Yeah? Oh, he wipes
Yeah.
the what 9-9. There you go.
Yes, as long as he deals with that, I think he's alive to see another turn. It's painful to use a kill command like that, but I think Ozzy has his priorities straight here. Trying to win the board instead on the next turn, but Tope has seen kill command, so he should feel a lot more confident about his chance to survive the next turn. It's just Zephyrus from Ozzy that he'll be very scared of.
Yep. Tope's hand here is full, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that is 10 cards. And he has to play one before he goes for button. Still very viable. Again, looking for that nether breath to stay safe. Like, especially with the Malagos. Oh no. If he does that with Malagos.
That would
You're
be
looking for it.
devastating, and that
There
looks
it
like
is!
that's game. Oh my goodness.
There it is.
One way or another.
Yeah, it
We're
either
looking for
keeps...
lethal this turn,
Yeah, it either-
but I don't see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, he's not gonna go for lethal. I believe the play here is to put me way beyond what Ozzy can deal with, and just go from there, right? This is, wow. He
That's
draws
totally
the card.
fine.
Yeah. And Malagos is no chump either at 12. Even the
Yeah.
primes are gonna have trouble dealing with it.
Especially since they have to go through that taunt. But Ozzy
Yeah.
can deal with it. It's because these are 6/6s, he can double trade into the 9/9, double trade into Malagos. But from there, he doesn't have much of a board anymore, and Tope can
Yeah.
just, I think, put together a value-based lethal. Ozzy also has a possibility of leaving up the Malagos if he doesn't think there's much more burst from Tope. He can just say, I'm gonna force you to deal with these instead. But he's taking the safer option, which I think makes a lot of sense. There's still a lot of burst spells that Ozzy has not seen.
Yeah, and now comes the Alexstrasza. Tope was hoping to get it off the button, but nonetheless, another insurance policy here for Tope. Like, even once he goes into single digits again, he can just keep himself up.
Or he can use it aggressively right now and then put Ozzy down to 12 HP. Also have an 8/8 on board, and he still has some significant burst in hand, so I wouldn't mind him going for offensive Alex right here. He can also coin to fit in his hero power, or hero power first rather, if that's going to be the order.
I bring life.
Oh, he's going for the aggressive play here. Jia, he understands
Yeah,
it.
I
He
like
feels it. Yep, that slot in the grand finals. He smells it, and he wants it.
Can Ozzy get here? Pretty much Zephyrus for Shadow Word Death is his best top deck that I can think of.
And he goes for it, looking for... Ooh, ends up with a brawler.
Not gonna be good enough.
so-
I think Tope is straight through to the grand finals now with a trade and a Soulfire. And
It's gonna happen. Ladies and gentlemen, Tope is going to be your very first grand finalist. The one to go through the top 4 of